Good morning everybody and welcome back to another weekly recap. In the weekly recap, I like to go over any news related to the old school RuneScape community this week. Now today we finally received the PGA timer, which albeit is a small change, it has changed a fundamental mechanic that's been in old school RuneScape for years. So we're going to have a look at how that will affect the average player as well as pkers and go over everything else interesting in the community this week. Thanks for watching as always. If you enjoyed the video, always appreciate a like on it. Thanks again and let's get started. Alright, so in today's update, we finally received a PJ timer. An update that some people were really excited for and other people's not as much, but that's just, well, RuneScape in a nutshell. So what exactly is a PJ timer and what is it looking to solve? Now, as most of you know, for the vast majority of the areas in the wilderness, players who'd recently been attacked by an NPC would not be able to be attacked by other players. Now, Jagex states that that is normally a fair interaction. That said, they do see an issue when players run into a giant mob of hobgoblins or other NPCs for the sole purpose of boxing them and gaining an unfair advantage. That said, on the flip side, another issue that arises is PJing or pile jumping or player jumping, which is when another player muscles in and takes your kill, as with good timing, players are able to swoop in and aggro an opponent that is already in combat. Now to help solve both of those issues, they're going to be added in a PJ timer. So this will be added into any single way combat area in the wilderness for both players and NPCs. So multi-combat areas are not changing, the mechanics there will stay the same, but in all single way combat areas, a 12-second PJ timer has been put in place. So what that means is if you've attacked something aggressive, any other monsters or player opponents will be unable to hit you for the next 12 seconds. So if one player's just killed someone and are still in PvP combat, another player or even an NPC won't be able to attack you for 12 seconds. Now this is actually going to have a pretty significant effect. No longer will you really be able to run into a pile of monsters after evading combat for a few seconds, as you'll have to wait a full 12 before something else would be able to aggro you. On the flip side though, clans won't have as much agency in single combat zones. As previously, you'd be able to juggle aggro between a few different clan members, which would give them an unfair advantage. Now you'll simply be able to log out if they wait too long. So single-ways combat will be more accurately that, one-on-one. Now that said, for those who don't want a PJ timer and want it the way it has always been, the PJ timer will be inactive in two worlds, those being 318 and 319. Also, the permanent deadman mode world will not have those changes either. Now one issue that popped up very quickly here is not only did they implement a 12-second PJ timer, but they also increased the logout timer to 12 seconds as well. So that pretty much means that although you have 12 seconds before a PKer could attack you, it would also take you 12 seconds to log off, somewhat negating the point of the timer to begin with. Now that said, they've already reverted that change back to its previous 10 seconds, which means skilled players should be able to escape PKers. Now in this week's update, we also have a small change to loot keys. Now these have only been in the game for a few weeks, but they're already going to make a few changes to them. Now firstly, loot chests have been added to the Grand Exchange, the Edgeville Bank, and the Mage Arena Bank, simply just to give you more locations where you can access your keys from instead of just the Ferox Enclave. Now one of the biggest critiques of loot keys was simply how expensive they were. Previous to today's update, it was 5 million GP simply to unlock the ability to use loot keys, which, you know, kind of hard for Ironman accounts and lower level accounts as well. Well, after today's update, the cost to purchase loot keys have been reduced to 1 mil, a 4 mil difference, and if you've already bought it, you will get a 4 mil refund straight to the bank. Now in today's update, they've also fixed a kind of complex interaction that was happening with loot keys. Now the interaction is when two people would kill each other at the same time or close to the same time. Now essentially what was happening is when two players would kill each other at the same time and they had loot keys enabled, the first player to die would generate their key, give it to the second player to die would then generate their key, and then give both of them back to the first player, which means dying first would actually be rewarded in this scenario, which is kind of weird and not really a fair interaction. So after today's update, from now on, if you die to a player who is either in the process of dying or has died recently, any loot keys you have on your person will simply be destroyed, and the loot will be dropped to the floor as normal regardless of the loot key setting. So a pretty quick fix to that problem. Now today we've also received a few changes to the broadcasting system in old school RuneScape for both clans and group Ironman. Now clan and group Ironman broadcasts will occur whenever certain rare things happen in game. For example, if you get a rare drop from Bandos, that will be broadcasted into your clan chat to let everyone know. Probably one of my favorite features they've added in recent years. Now today they've expanded pretty significantly what can be broadcasted, and they've added in a bunch of new settings for notifications. Now to begin with here, they have added in a few new items to the rare item broadcast. So now whenever you get a Pharaoh's Scepter, that will be broadcasted. Whenever you get Barrow's Loot or an Amulet of Eternal Glory, now that's all assuming that that exceeds your value threshold set in the clan menu, but those can now be broadcasted. Also, now whenever you get a pet, the broadcast that sends to your clan members or group Ironman members will also include the KC that you got it at or the XP when relevant, for example, a skilling pet. Now, on top of that, they've added in more options for customizing level up notifications. Previously, there was simply a preset structure to how this worked, but now you're able to change it yourself. So now there's a lot of customizability to how you can broadcast these messages. If you feel like they're coming up too often, you can change it to be less frequent. So that's really nice. On top of that, they've added in new broadcasts for whenever you get a new collection log entry, whenever you get a new personal best, whenever you've reached a certain amount of player kills, whenever you die in PvP, whenever you complete an achievement diary tier. You can even add notifications for every 10 mil XP milestone that you get above level 99. So if you just hit 100 million XP in range, for example, that can be broadcasted. And hardcore Ironman deaths, yeah, that should be broadcast for sure. So if you head on over to the settings menu, you may now notice that you are able to set what rank a player is able to have things broadcasted. So if you want people of only a certain rank to be able to have that ability, you can now do that. So there are just a ton of new ways to customize broadcasts. Now, a few other pretty important changes that happened this week. The Cowfight Queen now has an Ironman only instance, which means that Ironman trying to kill the Cowfight Queen will not be ragged or trolled as much by other players who are just running by or maliciously trying to stop their kill. And for Ironman, it'll work the exact same as the regular lair. Now, another kind of interesting change is they've actually reduced the cost of Truver Parchment to make them more accessible. Now I went ahead and looked, and it looks like Truver Parchments now cost 18 points, where previously it looked like they were sold for 30. So it looks to be a pretty significant discount. Now as of today, the birthday event has been removed, so you can no longer do that little mini quest, unfortunately. And by far the most important change of anything so far, you're now able to customize your character's foot shape. It's about goddamn time. Now they've released an up-to-date league point ranking as of March 9th, and currently Dragon rank is 47,650 points, so a significant investment. Runes about 30k, Adamant's around 15,000, Mithril around 5,000, Steel 1,600, and Iron rank 480. Well, at least I'll rank somewhere. So that is it for today's content update. One quick thing I wanted to touch on near the end here, some new information that was just released. There's been a few small updates on the new Tombs of Amasket rewards. Now for the new Ward of Elidness, they're going to be making a small change to the uncharged version of it. Essentially, to charge the ward you need an arcane, but if you don't have that, previous to today the ward wasn't particularly useful. However, they made the following changes to the stats. Notably, they've added in a 3% magic damage bonus onto it, making it a significantly better option before you've managed to charge it. They've reduced the defenses across the board and even the magic accuracy, but percent magic damage is the most important stat of all pretty well. So overall, it is a pretty significant buff. And finally here, they have acknowledged the feedback for the Heka of Tumikin, but currently they have no plans to make any changes to it. They said we're confident that you'll enjoy using the Heka once it's live, where it really should come into its own. So we're opting to continue on with the current design. So whether or not they will make it stronger in the future is yet to be seen, but the core concepts don't appear to be changing. So it looks like the rewards are going to be pulled pretty soon, and we'll see if that lack of change is impacted at the polls. Anyway, that's going to be it for the weekly recap. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. Now before I go here, I want to give a giant thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to Nell, Zero, The Hybrid, Alejandra, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed at the Dragon tier. You guys are amazing as always. And a huge thank you to Kaitin987, Locustes, Mexos, Base-Titch, NDM001, and YoYoSub89 for subbing at the Runite tier. Again, thanks a lot. If any of you are looking for another way to support the channel directly, becoming a YouTube member is a great way to do so. You'll get immortalized in all of my future videos and get a custom role in my Discord server. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.